Erin Moriarty, our 48 Hours correspondent, joins us now to talk more about the case. Erin, thanks for being here. I know you spent most of your time during this trial sitting there in the courtroom. What stood out to you the most?
Well, there were a lot of unusual aspects to this case. Number one, there was evidence, compelling evidence on both sides. I mean, honestly, I would sit in the courtroom someday going, you know what, this is definitely murder, and then, oh my gosh. I mean, there would be testimony that really supported the defense case. And then the other part, I don't think people realize how, it's not rare, but it's uncommon for the defendant to take the stand. Even innocent people, often their attorneys will suggest, look, you know, if you're not likable, if the jury doesn't like you, you could be convicted. And she did take the stand.
And why do you think that was? Why do you think she took the stand?
Well, a couple of reasons. It's self-defense, so there was no one else really to tell what happened that night. But again, it's still a huge risk. The other thing that I always find really interesting is, you know, attorneys cannot put on a client on the stand if he or she believes that client is lying. I think this defense attorney truly believed in Virginia Vertitas, and that made this case even more compelling. This was not just a job. He was, I mean, you see this in our show, just how passionate he is for this client. But one of the drawbacks here is she was clearly traumatized by this whole thing, and she was very medicated. And so if the jury was looking for the emotion that woman must have gone through that night, they weren't seeing it.
Well, there was a lot of emotion, as we just saw in the story there. Talk to us a little bit more about the forensics test. What did you learn there?
That's what the main reason why we replicated some of the state's tests, because again, there was evidence on either side. Just to give you an example, one of the pieces of evidence that fascinated me. So the victim had an injury here, and the defense said, he's going after her. She's shooting down the stairs. That makes sense, right? So I'm thinking, yeah, that's true. But the prosecution says he was on his phone, and it came.
Wow.
I know.
Oh,
and we know he made those phone calls. We know that. That's another interesting part about this case, was that there are these ear witnesses that you normally don't have. So we decided to replicate particularly a very major case that the state did. The state was convinced she couldn't have been telling the truth. We didn't know it involved that door. It was eye-opening to me, and I felt when we were done, and I feel like anyone who watches the show will have a pretty good sense of what happened that night.
Erin, it's an amazing footage, a story well told, and I'm going to have to find out what happened at the end. It seems like you're not going to tell us today.
Well, no, because you have to see the test so that you decide. You look at that test, and I think you have a pretty good idea of what happened.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Erin Moriarty, thank you very much.
Thanks for being. I really appreciate it.